Blessed are the poor in spirit, for theirs is the kingdom of God. How do we usually read this? I'm used to hearing it being said, blessed are those who know how much they need God. Poor in spirit is usually loosely translated to mean humble. Now, there's some truth to that idea, but that's not actually what this says. And honestly, if it were what this was saying, it wouldn't be very good news. If I told you that the kingdom of God was given only to humble people, what's the first question that would flood your mind? Am I humble enough to be given a seat at the table? And how humble is humble enough exactly? See, it's one thing to say that it's a good thing to know how much you need God, but to say that this statement from Jesus is trying to say that you will be given the kingdom of God if and only if you know how much you need God. I mean, that just raises the question, can we ever know just how much we need God? And would God place your entire salvation on an intellectual exercise like that? Babies need God, but do they know how much? What if I used to know how much I needed God, but I don't anymore because I don't even remember my name anymore? If Jesus said the kingdom of God is for the humble, that wouldn't be very good news. But there's another simpler reason that we know that that's not really what Jesus is saying here. And that's because there's a word for humble, and Jesus doesn't use that word. He literally said, blessed are the poor in spirit. Literally, the poor in spirit. Now, you could do a word study on the Greek and Hebrew meanings of poor in spirit, but here's basically what it means. The poor in spirit are the people that just looking at them would break your heart. The poor in spirit are those that just hearing about what they're going through would make you cry. The poor in spirit are the pitiful. And by that, I just mean you literally pity them. You thank God that you aren't in their position, and you wish you could do anything for them not to be in their position. You wouldn't wish what they have on your worst enemy. It's pathetic in the true sense of the word that you feel pathos for them. Your heart breaks for them. Why is this phrase measured in terms of spirit? Like, why is it being considered having little spirit? And there's two really straightforward reasons for that. And they're easier to understand when we talk about their opposites. Have you ever heard anyone being described as being in high spirits? What would rich in spirit mean? Abounding in spirit, having high spirits, or being full of spirit? This is usually a phrase used to describe you when you are loving your life right now. When God's Spirit is so very obviously with you abundantly right now, you're pretty sure you're blessed. You might even be more than just favored. You might be his favorite. That's how good things are right now. Have you ever felt that way? I have. I felt that way on my wedding day. I felt that way when I graduated from the seminary. I felt that way when I got called to Mount Calvary. I felt that way when Eloise was born, and again when Francis was born. And again, the first time Eloise said, Daddy. The first time Francis said, Daddy. We felt that way before. We've been in high spirits before. So then poor in spirit, the opposite of that. That means you are very, very low right now. You're hating your life right now. And God is not very obviously with you right now. In fact, You might even think in a moment like the one that you're in, you might wonder if God is really far away from you. You might wonder if God has nothing to do with the situation that you're in, if God isn't even watching, if he isn't even seeing this. Have you ever been there? I'm not going to tell you when, but I have a number of times. Jesus says even when, not if, because he knows, even when this could be said about you. Even when you're poor in spirit, even when you don't know that you're blessed, Jesus says you still are. Blessed, makarios in the Greek, it's a divine, I am with you. That's what it means. If God calls you makarios, he's announcing to you, I'm on your side. This is an announcement. It's not a command. This isn't instructions on how to live your best life. This isn't instructions on how to get invited to the party at the end of all time. This is the host declaring who's on the list. Being poor in spirit is not something you're supposed to try to attain. There's nothing good or praiseworthy about it. You don't want to be poor in spirit, and you shouldn't want to be poor in spirit. But when you are anyway, God is with you. God is on your side, and the kingdom of heaven is yours. Jesus is saying, when you're poor in spirit, this situation isn't deserved. This isn't how it's supposed to be, and it isn't punishment. God doesn't want anyone to hate their life. He doesn't want anyone to think that he's abandoned them. That's literally why Christmas happened, so that the world would know that he is with you and me. Jesus is saying, when you're poor in spirit, that this situation isn't a reflection of your character, like you and the world might think. Bad things don't happen to bad people. Bad things happen to people. Jesus is saying, when you're poor in spirit, that this situation isn't a reflection of how God feels about you. Jesus is the reflection of how God feels about you. And most of all, when you're poor in spirit, Jesus is saying this situation isn't permanent. It doesn't stay like this. A turnaround is coming. A reversal is coming. Read the Gospels. The low will be exalted. The valleys will be raised up to meet the high ground. Why? I don't know. But it's kind of important to God that we know that this just is the way he is. Scan the Gospels. See who he insists on including and restoring and forgiving and uplifting. And I guarantee that there's at least one example of a person in a situation similar to yours being unpromptedly, unconditionally, unexpectedly loved by Jesus. It's just the way he is. What's in store for the absolutely pitiful? What's the future hold for the pathetic? The absolutely unenviable? What do the least and worst and the I don't even want to think about it's have to look forward to? Nothing less than a place at the table at the wedding banquet of the Lamb in his kingdom that has no end. So here's the question. How you doing today? How you doing this year? If you're doing okay, great. You know you're blessed, right? That's not a bad thing, but you don't need anything announced to you this morning. You're good. But if I say, how are you? And you say, not so okay. Well, the thing about that is you might not know that you're blessed today, because honestly, your body's falling apart and everything hurts. You might not know that you're blessed today because you've never felt so alone as you have the past few months. You might not know that you're blessed today because you can't do this anymore and you're just going through the motions. Or because the money is about to run out, or because the money already has run out, or because of something that you've done, or because of something that's been done to you. You might not know that you're blessed today because it's not super obvious that God is with you right now. But in this beatitude, Jesus announces to you today that yes, God is with you. And yes, God is for you. And yes, God is ahead of you. And yes, the kingdom of God is yours. Grace and peace to you, my friends.